The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Tuesdays here. Good to have you in on Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and all of you in the stream and on the Hail Varsity Radio Network. 489-1240, 489-1240. To get in, 800-825-5865. Can email Chris at hailvarsity.com. Can tweet at us. Some different ways to do that. At Schmidt_radio. At Herbal Essence. Can find us also on YouTube. Hail Varsity YouTube. Like and subscribe there to watch the show and make some comments. Also, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. At HVarsity Radio. No golf for either of us today. I know that dirty rumor's out there that we play 8 times a week. Not even in this wind.
Is that rumor out there?
That's what the arrows were being lobbed at us, that we weren't even going to the Ohio State game. We were just on a golf trip. The captain came in off the top rope with that one. No bowling for you tonight. I'm not seeing the bowling shirt unless it's hanging up in the back of your rig on the OS handle.
Injured reserve yet again.
That's what I thought. So you're trying to figure it out. I'm anxious. When Rhule talks this Thursday, there was some hinting going on about the kicking display Mr. Hull put on today in this vicious wind. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. Chance of some rain on Saturday. But I do know it's about to get back into the groove of road shows this week for Hail Varsity. So excited about that. I'm fired up for Saturday as well. Just UCLA always kind of makes me smile with just growing up here in Nebraska. One of the first games, maybe the first game I went to, I don't know if it was Arizona State or UCLA, but I think Nebraska played UCLA in 87 in Lincoln and won a shootout there. They got rocked in 88 out there. And then, so 94 they came. I think that was a night game. Actually, it was a day game in 94. But point is Nebraska's had their share of UCLA matchups. It's always been a pretty popular game 3 of the season. Nebraska scheduled UCLA, and Nebraska do that so they could keep that foothold in recruiting California. So we'll turn the page on Ohio State, get into UCLA, that chasing 6. Not 3, but 6 for Nebraska to get bowl eligible this Saturday. We'll hear from Ty Robinson. We'll hear from Marcus Satterfield. We'll hear from Dylan Raiola. We'll hear from you in the stream. But a lot going on. Just for your purposes, you want to come see us. We absolutely appreciate that. Thursday this week, we're at the Single Barrel, downtown Lincoln, 9th and P, inside the Graduate Road Show, 4 to 6 Thursday. Friday, our Omaha friends and surrounding areas, come see us in Gretna, Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. I'm going to make the executive call now and say it is a patio show.
Okay.
That means if you've got to rock a turtleneck or some some layers, you do it. They have 100 fire pits out there. As long as it doesn't melt the equipment, we can turn one on if we get a little chilly.
Do we wear Halloween costumes?
No, because it's November.
Okay.
Dude, not dressing up for Halloween. Anti-Halloween guy here. Big time anti-Halloween guy.
Why?
Why? It just sucks.
Do you hate fun?
I hate 3 dogs that freak out every time a kid walks by our... Oh, here's the situation.
Do you hate 3 cute dogs in cute Halloween costumes?
No. I have the German Shepherd, Gertie. You've seen her from time to time, Saturday mornings, where she is racing around. She acts like she's going to kill whoever walks into the house or is in our yard. And then she knows how to open doors. And we have 40 doors that have those flat handles because somebody was a cheap ass, me, when we were doing the house. So she opens the door, peeks outside the side room, and barks, goes nuts, staring out the door. So every time and we have 400 kids in our neighborhood. We're the only family that doesn't have any, Halloween trick-or-treater age kids. So she's going to go nuts Thursday. No one rings our doorbell. We don't leave the light on. Hopefully someone smashes those damn pumpkins my wife has out on the stoop. It's just not a good experience. Because the old dog follows Gertie's suit, and then the puppy loses his mind as well. And you put him in the basement, they're going to freak out anyway. Why are you locking me up? What do we do? So that's my 2-second dissertation on why I hate Halloween.
Oh, what a fun hater you are.
No, it's garbage. Don't like it. Junior's not into it as much anymore either. We took him trick-or-treating a few times, and he grew out of it real quick. He did go as Kenny Bell one year. Shook me down for a number 80 jersey.
I'm trying to think. I mean, it's just, I can't believe how much of a Grinch you are here.
Dude, I'm a Grinch for everything. You know that.
Yeah, that's true.
It's brand here.
True.
I'm on brand for that. But anywho, I went off track there. But come see us, Single Barrel Saturday, Hurrdat Friday, 4 to 6 in Gretna. Saturday, Single Barrel, noon to 2, getting you ready for kickoff, and then Real Red Reaction follows at 6-ish. And we'll talk about Nebraska if they get the W. If they don't, I'm wondering, with Nebraska here moving forward.
Before we dive too far, do you at least carve pumpkins?
No, hell no. I've not carved a pumpkin. I don't remember the last time I carved a pumpkin.
Good God. Okay, back to football.
I think I used paint one time. What?
How lazy can you be?
I don't put Christmas lights up either. What do you want? I'll grill for you. I'll pour a drink for you.
Yeah,
I'm pretty good.
You are going to be the guy that doesn't do turkey on Thanksgiving, too.
Oh, I'll do turkey.
I don't know, based on everything I'm hearing, I think you hate all traditions.
No, I will put turkey on the smoker, and I'll pour a wild turkey, and it's 2 for 2. We're fine. No, I like Thanksgiving.
Back to football, okay.
How lazy. Dude, lazy's got nothing to do with it.
You painted a pumpkin. What's the point of that?
I'm not a fan of the old sharp objects around my wife.
That's fair, I guess, but...
You know her. All right. Love her. She's the best. Get our starting 5 shout-outs. We'll hear from Ty Robinson here about that pressure to get 6. Donnie Trump is in first. Good for you, Donnie. Ronnie, not Donnie, is in at number 2. Black Hills Brennan checking in. Aggressively average. Has a disparaging comment about the Iowa Hawkeyes. Oh, wind, excuse me. Coach Brandon's here. Cliff checks in from Florida. Great Red Shark. Love that. We'll hear that as well, Great Red Shark. How about Dylan kicking down for Sat? Walter is in south of Philly. Says Sat has foot in mouth disease. Mr. Snitley is here. Jeff Snitley, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. JB is my dad, checks in. NASCAR Eric, good to have you. The other Dave is in. He is sad that Dylan stuck up for Sat. Great Red Sharks checked in. The only good thing about Dylan taking up for Sat is that I hope that means that Dylan and Dom like Sat and his offense and thus might not transfer. I have not gotten to that point yet about Portal Watch. I just haven't gone there yet. Ace, QB1 Ace is in. Tiger Shark Diver is here as well. Dylan was coached from a young age on how to speak to the media and give coach speech. He would never say, wow, this offense sucks and Sat should go. You got 4 more games. Let's see how the offense progresses. Justin is in. Good to have Justin. Bruce from Spearfish. Ed is in, and he's in the house. Good to have you. Rhule the Day is here. Montana Husker fan checks in. Tim in Idaho is here. KG checks in, says, I'm back. And first, once more. So that is good to have KG back in. Captain is in the stream as always, is letting us know about Coach Satterfield's stats as head coach. Went 5-6 and 1-10 at Tennessee Tech. Crypto King says, what's up? DJ is here. I missed the presser, but man, my Twitter's going wild. Hoping to catch up on what I missed. Okay, let's get into it. Mitch Sherman on the way, Michael Bruntz on the way, and we'll also check in. Bill Bender, Sporting News, will join us as well. So let's just hear from Dylan Raiola, all right? How he feels about being able to push the ball downfield. And he also kind of opened up about his thoughts on his offensive coordinator. Cut 5 from Dylan. This is what folks are talking about today. We'll also hear from Sat on Dylan's ability to run. I know that's also taking some arrows, but here's Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, I feel confident. I think it's just a matter of execution now. Coach Sat gives us the plays to go do it, and as players, we have to go out there and execute it. And I know Coach Sat's getting a lot of heat right now, and of his plays that he's calling, and I think that's unfair to him. He can't go out there and make plays and do everything that he's coaching us to do. So, as players and as the quarterback of this offense, I take the responsibility for that, and for us to go out there and execute. That's not his fault, and I think we can push the ball down the field, and I think we will.
So there you go. He's able to make the throws downfield. He's got to hit some of them. I think he knows that. As far as Sat, he's not wrong. Guy's got to block better if the play call is called. Now, we can get into how many times you're going to keep banging your head into the wall. But eventually, do your job, right? Do your job and make a perimeter block. Make a perimeter block so maybe you can run outside the tackles. Give the guy time in the pocket to get downfield and hit the throw. Some of those plays were there to be had against Ohio State that they didn't connect on, that weren't totally Sat's fault. He can't throw it and catch it. So you need that. You don't want your freshman phenom going out. He can't do it. He can't and won't do it. He's part of this offense. He knew who he was going to play for. And you're going to come up and say, hey, it's on us to do it. That's what you need to hear. That's what now you need to see. Mm-hmm. Simple enough. So when it comes to Sat, here's a little bit from Satterfield. He was asked about the short passing game and how that was a pretty big part of the game plan on Saturday, cut 2.
Just trying to get the ball out quick. It's a very scary pass rush at times, so you don't want to be standing back there the whole game holding the ball.
Not wrong. Got a block on the edge, though.
And I said this on Sunday. I think it's been thrown around as well today. Like, with the screen game, go back and watch the game. I'd say at least half of the quote-unquote screens that we saw on Saturday seemed to be checks pre-snap. And I've seen this thrown around today as well, like on social media, other radio shows. I mentioned this on Sunday. I wonder how much of that, now, could it be a discredit to Satterfield for having those still as the checks you can check into late in the game whenever you know it's not working? Maybe, but it seems to me to be like a pre-snap. You read the coverage and you say, hey, we got a hat on a hat over here. Let's throw the screen pass and see if we can execute. And I don't know, that you have the coaches in the headset that can assist with that process. But to me, it looks like checks on the field as opposed to Sat up in the box saying, ooh, that screen's been working well all game. Let's go back to it.
It's 1st and 10. Let's see how the offense performs 2nd and 12.
Yeah.
Let's dial up a bubble.
Yeah. We don't
Thanks, Naor. You get out there. We're gonna throw a bubble to Lloyd. We're gonna find Barney.
We've had Ohio State. We've been prepping for them all week. We've been working the 12-yard plays all week long. We need to get there.
Take them by surprise. How about the scramble element? That's a big topic today. Listen, I am glad that we saw Dylan tuck and run. I hope we see more of that. You just don't want to get the guy knocked out. I think he's smart enough to get down, but yeah, let the guy scramble around, especially if it's a Mahomes style scramble, how he hurts defenses, where he's not a guy like, I don't know, Lamar, where he is going to have 8 to 12 quarterback runs. Here is the scramble element, cut 6.
When they think you can't run, they don't have to have a spy. That they can play man coverage and read his eyes and get underneath certain routes. So for him to be able to pull it down and run like you did, I think at least they have to account for him. It shows they have to account for him now. I haven't had a conversation with him about it. I'm probably speaking out of place, but I think it came from the third and 4 to 5 we had right before the half at Indiana where he could have ran it and he didn't. I think that pissed him off. I think he just kind of subconsciously did it just to prove he could.
So there you go. Lastly, and this is what folks are a little hot about, when Sat was asked, what'd you think of Dylan as a runner, cut 7?
Shoot, I didn't know he could run like that, to be honest with you. I've never seen it, but I thought did a really nice job. He switched the ball on the outside arm. He used used his off-arm weapon as a stiff arm. It was cool. I'd hopefully see some more.
All right. So folks are going to jump all over that. I didn't know he could run. Be looking for a reason to continue to go piñata. Let's see if the offense keeps getting better running the football. Let's see if the offense can hit some downfield throws. I'm all with you on the horizontal part of things. Throwing the football. Go vertical, por favor. So good to be with you. Off and running on a Tuesday. Can get in 489-1240. Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. He'll release the Fury next.
It's that time.
Hey, Mitch. Mitchie. We're looking for you, pal.
Mitch Sherman from The Athletic, talking Big Red.
Unleash the fury, Mitch.
Unleash the fury!
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Mitch Sherman is in from The Athletic in his podcast, Incredible Locked On Nebraska. At Mitch Sherman on Twitter. Mitch, good to see you in Columbus, man. How we doing on this Tuesday?
Maybe.
Did we lose him? Hello, Mitch.
Let's try him one more time, maybe.
All right. Maybe he just hung up and said, I saw you two goons long enough in Columbus.
I hear him on the back end, I think.
He said, I heard the intro, and then it went out. Let's try him again.
Okay, let's do that.
Let's dial him up again. So Mitch said, yeah, I heard my intro, and then it went goodbye. I think we're still streaming. God knows we need to feed the hamster in the back room to stay on the hamster wheel to keep the power going. So let's go to the stream here for a moment. Montana Husker fan has a good point and says, am I the only Nebraska fan who doesn't think Harburg's a good short yardage situation option? You know what? Maybe that could have worked. The infamous Dowdell, Walter Payton tribute. Back with Mitch Sherman. Mitch, good to spend a few minutes. How we doing?
Good to talk to you, too. I'm doing well. How are you?
We're good, man. Thanks for taking the call. And you had a great column after the Ohio State ball game. Want to go there about the topic of trust. And, I think Nebraska fans are, more likely to trust their football team, Bud, after the Ohio State outing. It's been quite a 180, right, the last 2 weeks, and now Nebraska's knocking on that 6-win door.
It has been a 180, which is interesting when you consider that I get that it was a much different looking game, and it inspired a lot more confidence to see Nebraska play the way that it did against Ohio State than what we saw a week earlier. But it's now a 2-game losing streak, and so it is interesting, that we've done such a 180 with public opinion, I think, after this game. It speaks really to just how tough it was last week, how hard, and Matt Rhule talked about this on Saturday and again on Monday, just what a hard week it was for Nebraska after that Indiana game to come back and find the find the ability to go out there and feel good about themselves to enter the Ohio State game. And they tackled that challenge, and they did it, and they played a solid game and came up short in a few areas. And that was the difference between winning and losing in Columbus.
Mitch, do you have reason to believe that standard that a couple guys talked about today, Matt Rhule talked about on Saturday, do you have reason to believe that'll stick through the month of November? Because we've kind of seen the, at times, Jekyll and Hyde nature of this team where they have a couple good performances and they turn around and drop a stinker. You look at Illinois, you look at, obviously, Indiana. I think you could maybe put that first half of Purdue in there as well. Like, do you have reason to believe that standard will continue through the month of November?
Yeah, I think there's reason to believe, but you never know until you see it. I go back to some of what Rhule said after the game and talking to the players today. I wrote about this topic that for a story that'll be out on The Athletic tomorrow morning. And something that Rhule said that sticks with me a little bit is how against Indiana, when things went wrong for Nebraska, they looked around and said, why is this happening to us? And there was some playing of the victim card. And Nebraska got into a situation again after, going through a difficult week. Nebraska got into a situation again against Ohio State where the opportunity to fall apart was there in front of them. It was 14-3. Nebraska had given the ball back to Ohio State. The Buckeyes were driving across midfield. I think you get the sense right there that Nebraska was just kind of trying to hold on at the end of the first half. And Ohio State was going to get it to start the second half. It very easily could have been 28 or 35-3, in a scenario that unfolded like it did the week before. But Nebraska did not look around and say, hey, why is this happening to us? I do believe that, at least I believe that the Huskers see it, and we'll see if it sticks. But I think they truly believe that they turned a corner. Ty Robinson talked today about the tipping point and how it's getting close for the program. They think they're arriving at the tipping point. And for me, if I'm looking for real evidence of what I see, I go back to that point in the Ohio State game where it had a chance to get away from Nebraska, and instead of looking around and wondering what's going on, they dug in and they were able to get a stop and a field goal and then play well in the second half and take the lead in the fourth quarter.
Mitch, I want to get into Dylan Raiola's legs and just that element with this offense. It's not zone read game. It's not quarterback keep game, but it is, all right, if there's nothing there, I'm going to tuck and pick up a few. Did that for 38 yards, an explosive play in Nebraska's ground game. But it seemed like since that moment, the ground game opened up in the second half. Nebraska kept kind of pounding away. What do you anticipate moving forward, either designed run or just scramble? How much more will we see these Final Four games, do you think, in this offense?
I don't think we'll see more of the 38-yard run. He just had all kinds of open space, and the way that the defense was set up there and the routes that Nebraska ran and Ohio State's upfield pressure when he got past the initial pass rush, it was 20 yards of open space. And he can move. He's mobile. There are much slower quarterbacks out there. It's just he hasn't looked to do that. And I do think you'll continue to see him look to move the chains. He referenced and first Marcus Satterfield referenced it, and then Dylan talked about it. A 3rd and 4 play against Indiana where he saw in film, and maybe he saw in the moment, that he had room to run and he could have extended the drive. Instead, he threw back across his body for Ramir Johnson, and the pass was incomplete, and Nebraska punted, and it was just another one of those moments that snowballed on the Huskers in that game in Bloomington. So I think that's where Dylan got some resolve and the determination to just say, I'm gonna take the first down when I can get it. And he did that once early in the Ohio State game, and then it opened up for him on that one play. I think that one play is very much going to be the exception. You might see him do something like that every 5 or 6 games, but he's not going to go run for 40 yards regularly against defenses in the Big Ten, certainly not the defenses that Nebraska faces in November. The thing is, they're going to have to respect it. They're going to have to understand that if they give it to him, it's there, and that does open things up, not just in the run game for Nebraska, but also in the pass game.
It's Mitch Sherman with us here from The Athletic, talking Nebraska, Ohio State, and we'll get a quick thought here on UCLA, Mitch. I guess the simple question here, Mitch, is a lot of people were down on UCLA as we kind of look ahead to what Saturday is. This Husker team, I'm not sure if riding high is what you'd call it, but I think there's a confidence within that locker room. You look at UCLA, you don't know, but that 2-5 record might not tell the whole story whenever you look at the murderer's row that they took on to start the year with a whole bunch of top 25 teams and 3, maybe 4 teams that could be in the playoff with Indiana, LSU. You also had Penn State and Oregon in that stretch. Like, does the record tell the full story with UCLA?
No, I think you laid it out. They've played 4 top 10 to top 15 teams. Now, LSU lost at A&M last week and is a second loss and is not ranked in the top 10. But in Indiana, I believe, is outside of the top 10. But they're top 10 caliber teams, top 15 caliber teams. And UCLA's played, if not the toughest schedule in the country, definitely one of the toughest schedules in the country. And on top of that, I think UCLA's improved. You see Ethan Garber's the quarterback, and the kind of attack that he led in the game at Rutgers, on the road at Rutgers, against a good defense. Now, Rutgers has diminished and has been a little beaten down since it lost its undefeated record on that Saturday in Lincoln. But still, it's a physical team, and it's one that you wouldn't have expected UCLA to put up that kind of performance against on the road in the Big Ten. So I do think it's a different team than the one that out in September, and they're coming off of a bye. So I think, with the quarterback situation for the Bruins and how he's coming into his own, and it's a defense that, as Matt Rhule said, is a physical defense that will hit you. This is not an easy game for Nebraska on Saturday by any stretch.
Mitch, we'll get you out on this. Mitch Sherman with us from The Athletic, Locked On Nebraska podcast, at Mitch Sherman on Twitter. So what kind of threat does the UCLA defense pose against Nebraska's offense? What can Nebraska's offense do Saturday to keep kind of moving forward?
I think they'll have to incorporate some of the stuff we saw last week. That was a great Ohio State defense that Nebraska played, and the 17 points is not any fantastic accomplishment. You want to score more than that. Nebraska had opportunities to score more than that. So what they'll have to do is they'll have to cash in the opportunities and play the style of football that we saw on last Saturday in Columbus. It's going to be a more hospitable situation, a more hospitable environment to play offense for Nebraska. You're not going to have the 100,000 people, 104,000 that are down your throat when you've got the ball. So there's some factors for sure that are there for Nebraska to have success offensively, but I think the plan and what they want to do and the balance that Nebraska showed, having some commitment to the run game, incorporating the QB run when in rare circumstances when it can get you a first down, that, as we discussed, is important. And staying on task. Don't get into a situation where all of a sudden you slip into a mode where you have to throw 8 passes in a row or whatever it is that we've seen this year at times from the offense in Marcus Satterfield. Stay balanced, keep UCLA on edge, and I think the offense can have a good day.
Mitch, 30 seconds here with Nebraska. The fan base, the atmosphere Saturday. Do you expect kind of a jovial crowd at Memorial Stadium to get to that 6th win?
I don't know about jovial when the game starts. I think it's going to be a locked-in crowd. I think they're going to be into it. I don't think it's going to be a crowd that comes in late and isn't involved. Like, I think they're going to take some inspiration from the way that Nebraska played and appreciate the effort that Nebraska put out there in a second consecutive road game, losing to Ohio State like that, and they're going to come ready to cheer. But jovial and that'll have to wait until the fourth quarter if Nebraska's got a lead.
Mitch, be good. We'll talk again. Thanks for the time today, man.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
There he is, Mitch Sherman with us from The Athletic. We'll have some open phones here till 5, 489-1240.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back to you, it's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, 489-1240, 489-1240 to get in here if you want to jump in. Coming up at 5, Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7 Sports. Get Bruntzy's take, and we'll see if he's dressing up for some early action in on the trick-or-treating.
Quickly here, Schmidty.
And Bill Bender, Sporting News, National College Football writer extraordinaire.
Quickly here, Schmidty. I'm not sure you could hear it because your earbuds went in a little
They
late.
fell out.
This song was put into this intro in honor of you.
Yeah, I love Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
I love this song anyway, 1979.
Well, the Smashing Pumpkins, that's just for you, you Halloween hater.
Yeah, that's about right.
If there's any houses in your neighborhood that have smashed pumpkins this year, I think we have a prime candidate.
I'll put the address out. Just take them away. Just take them. Maybe that'll deter future purchases.
Schmidty's walking around. He's not trick-or-treating. He's walking around with a baseball bat, taking it to pumpkins.
She went off this weekend on, she bought giant nutcrackers already. And they're in storage, and I'm just waiting for the dogs to lose it on them. You know what that I should do? I should call our friends here at Neiman & Sons and go the right route here for holiday lighting. All right, that's just around the corner. But Neiman & Sons, we're talking 4 decades of excellence. Trevor and, of course, Travis and the folks, they are awesome. 1981, Neiman & Sons, family run. They specialize in roofing, in siding, and gutters. And they have that commitment to customer satisfaction, comprehensive services for residential and commercial exterior services. They even have that custom exterior lighting. You need to get fired up. Do so today. 402-423-4853. Call Neiman & Sons today. NeimanandSons.com for your commercial or residential needs when it comes to roofing, siding, gutters, and custom exterior lighting. They are great in the community, Neiman & Sons. They have been a part of youth football for a ton of years with the team, and they're trusted professionals, fully licensed, accredited, and they built that solid reputation on amazing service and customer trust. We talked trust with Mitch Sherman. The old trustometer, I think, is beyond that neutral 0. After Indiana, way negative. 0 trust. Right now, going into UCLA, plenty of trust with Nebraska. Not that they're going to come out and blow the doors off. The line has dropped from 9.5 to 6.5. So it might be a tight ball game, but this could be another step where it's put together. Defense does their thing, special teams more reliable, that incremental progress, and then the offense finds something and they execute a lot better.
I will say my early feel in this game, I thought 10.5 was way too many points. At 6.5, I'm still leaning UCLA to cover. Nebraska to win, UCLA to cover is my early week feel without locking in an actual prediction.
Yeah, I'm right with you.
It's no joke, the murderer's row of teams that UCLA's had to play this season. Once they finally got some winnable games, Minnesota they played really close. They got a win against Rutgers, and that was kind of as the wheels were falling off for Rutgers, but I don't think that's something to discredit UCLA with. I think they played a murderer's row of teams to start the year, and I think they got a lot better from it. Whenever they saw what the standard was, if you will, what these great teams in the Big Ten are going to do to you, I think they learned from it. I think they got better. I still don't think they're a great football team, but I don't think they're a team you can look past because the experience you can get playing those top teams, UCLA is not a team that has given up this season. They're a team that's still trying to learn and get better from those losses, and I think that's dangerous because it's something Ty Robinson said today. You look back at that Michigan State team last year, didn't have a good record, but the danger is they got a lot better from playing good teams, and they have nothing to lose on Saturday.
No, they will come in trying to take out their frustrations on somebody. Mm-hmm. And Crypto King checks in. He says the Huskers need to run more screens. It's pretty funny, Crypto King. Good work. But on a serious note, when we talk about UCLA, and we've got plenty of this week to dive into the Bruins, they made it hard on Penn State. Mm-hmm. It was not a blowout. It was a double-digit win, but it was a struggle to put them away. Oregon kind of did their thing. They were tied with UC. They were tied at LSU at half, at 17 apiece. And LSU was able to distance themselves.
And I will say, I kind of think LSU is a little overrated this year because they have nothing close to what you'd call a competent rushing attack. They have
Which
a
is
great
crazy
quarterback.
They have
and
2
receivers.
first-round tackles.
Yeah, but they use them as pass protection. They got a good quarterback and some good wide receivers, but I think they're kind of learning, you're not going to win a whole bunch of games without a rushing attack. UCLA is not good enough to pose a threat, especially where they were early in the season. But I don't think LSU's all that good. I'll just throw that out there now.
Do you come in treating UCLA like Ohio State if you're Nebraska? That's really what it kind of boils down to. Ty Robinson checked in. He put a lot of good tape out there on Saturday. And let's hear from Ty Robinson here. Cut 3 on setting a higher standard for this weekend.
Well, I think the standard was, met or set even higher on Saturday. And, what's great is that everyone now gets to see that standard. And, everyone knows what it takes during the week in practice to get to that type of preparation for the game. I mean, the offensive coaches this is the first time the offensive coaches came to us, or our coaches saying, hey, man, those defensive guys on scout were freaking flying around today, making plays, and, just being aggressive and getting them better and better. And the same thing, our scout offense has done a great job all year, getting us ready. I think that's why we've been pretty dominant on defense. And, you just got to continue to try to exceed that standard every practice, every day.
So, again, do you show up this Saturday like you did last Saturday? Time will tell with that. Cut 5 here. The pressure to win exists clearly and keeps mounting year after year when you're just short of a bowl berth. Ty Robinson asked about that today. How does he handle this week and beyond trying to get bowl eligible?
Yeah, we know it's important to get that 6th win. And, I think, we all want the same thing. But to answer your question, how we're going to keep that mentality is just focusing on one game, and not trying to jump ahead in the weeks or, overlooking, an opponent or that type of deal. That kind of already happened to us this year. And, and that starts this week. So I'm going to treat, the same great game preparation I did for last week against Ohio State, against the UCLA Bruins. And I know the rest of the guys are going to do that as well. And it just comes down to, one-on-ones, our 11 guys going out there and competing against their 11 guys.
Last thought from Ty, what makes this UCLA team dangerous?
What's dangerous about this game is UCLA has nothing to lose compared to as we were last year against Michigan State, trying to get that 6-game win. So there's a lot of things to that we've learned. Basically, kind of what I said earlier is just focusing on them, making sure we learn everything we can about them, that game preparation, and going out there and not really playing their record, but playing them as the men they are, as the guys they are, and as the team they are.
The more you think about it, Elijah, and just kind of reading into some comments, you think Nebraska didn't really fear Indiana that much?
Yeah, and we have the question from KG. Honest question, which team did he mean by they overlooked? Maybe something to think about during the break. Yeah. I think Indiana.
I think there's a couple on the schedule. Hour 1 winding down here on Hail Varsity.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, it's Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Podcast for you. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Search Hail Varsity Radio. Give us a rating, good, bad, or ugly. Love the feedback. Elijah, you just sent this to me. 5.9 million and change. Got to see Big Noon, Nebraska, hang in with Ohio State. That's a far better number than the 4 million and change that saw Nebraska curb stomped by Indiana. So there was some of that.
The game peaked at over 9 million viewers in that fourth quarter.
That's big.
Time, between 2 and 2:30 Central Time.
So they got to see the bleep show that was the Zebras.
You would think. You would think. And it was the most viewed college football game of the weekend.
Good work, Nebraska, for being in it. Captain says public be enemy number 1. One of the first CDs ever was Public Enemy. I think their 1991 album, I got to recall. Dion is in. Good work there. Good to have you, Dion. So we're talking about KG's question, honest question, which team did he mean that they overlooked? I think they thought a lot of themselves after Colorado going into Illinois, all right? And then kind of the same thing where All right, this team ran it on you, and then they threw it on you. You fast forward to Indiana, they did the same thing. Matt Rhule chimed in on that, the logo part. He's worried about complacency, guys looking at their stats. Just I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but just kind of piecing some of these things together. You know, guys may be feeling themselves a little bit, and you came out the right way. Can you stay that right way these Final Four? Here's Rhule on that logo discussion.
Yeah. I mean, I have a really, I think, close relationship with most of the guys, and most of my conversations with them are kind of like one-on-one, and I didn't really bring that up. More like, my question. I will share this with you. My question to all the guys has been, well, what did you learn this past week? And I think a lot of them learned that, hey, we belong. We can play with anybody when we do X, Y, and Z. And then my second question is like, well, then what happened 2 weeks ago? And I think the one thing we're learning is, and it's what I know. A lot of things I take. I know I've said this all. Don't play the logos. Indiana's an elite team. And Ohio State, when we knew it was Ohio State, we had a chance to play them, right? So don't play the logo, and just go play the guys. And I know our guys know that sometimes they have to go through this to gain the confidence to recognize that, like, hey, I played really well against Ohio State. I'm a good player. I should carry that forward. So I don't know about you guys. You guys have kids. I don't know if you tell your kids. You don't know how often they listen to you. My son's a freshman. I don't know how often he listens to me. Sometimes young people have to do it themselves before they decide, okay, this is true. And so we're in that stage, and we didn't panic after Indiana. We're not going to panic now. We're going to try to go beat UCLA this week 1-0.
Well put. I think there's a little look behind the curtain there. Talk a lot about mentality, 18 to 22-year-olds. And you've got some 23, 24-year-olds on this football team that have had a lot of good things said about them, and that's totally fair. Totally good. But they're the ones that are leading the way when it comes to prep and then reaction in-game. Are you ready to go? When it goes wrong, how do you react? And can Nebraska settle down and be some sort of consistent three-phase approach and attack a week this upcoming Saturday? We'll find out. We'll see if Michael Bruntz is breaking out the Elway jersey for an early trick-or-treat run tonight. Bill Bender, Sporting News. We'll talk Big Ten, Big Red with him. Second hour, Hail Varsity with you, Hail Varsity YouTube channel.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back into it at Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We welcome in Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7 Sports. So if you're out and about at Boo at the Zoo and you see someone dressed as John Elway, go fist bump Michael Bruntz. Is that true? Or are you going as Elway tonight?
I wish. I am not going as John Elway, unfortunately. I got roped into a family costume.
No.
So I will be I will be a character from Gabby's Dollhouse. If you see somebody at the Boo at the Zoo dressed as a character from Gabby's Dollhouse, you're free to laugh and point.
So some of us juniors going to be 18 here in about 15 days. We did not have Gabby's Dollhouse on at the house.
No.
Ever. You, however, are engulfed in unicorns and Gabby's Dollhouse. What character are you again, and explain this costume?
There's really nothing to explain. It's a kind of cat. It's a cat DJ, Chris. A cat DJ, like disc jockey. So that's about all I can describe. So. What was the drug of choice in your house when Junior was like 6? What was the go-to?
What was the drug of choice in the Schmidt house when Carson was 6?
Yeah.
It was Jack Daniels, man. It's still the drug of choice.
Was that like a Blues Clues era, or was that post Blues Clues?
No, it was Blues Clues.
Okay.
He liked.
See, Blues Clues was my era whenever I was a child.
But it bled into Blues Clues. But he liked Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Okay, that's my era.
Okay.
But he always pronounced it Quifford.
Okay.
Before we got him into speech therapy, it was Quifford.
I'll assume you never dressed up as Clifford the Big Red Dog, Schmidt.
No, he went as some sort of monkey when he was 3, and he still gets called the monkey from time to time, and he hates it. So he's not. He's drifted away from Halloween. However, the wife has not, with decorations and decor, and we have a Halloween tree, but we make fun of her on the radio about the Halloween tree, Bruntzy. So it's not been out for display for 2 years. So I won that battle.
Got it. Do you have to dress up as part of this, or you got a costume?
No, dude. We just leave the non-filters and a lighter and a bowl on the front step, and
please take one.
Please just take one. Just take one.
Nice.
Bruntzy, I'm looking up this costume. I like. It's got a pink hoodie. You'll be, what is it? Multicolored tentacles going on as well.
Yeah. I don't get it. But yeah, that's what it is. Purple face, maybe. I haven't decided if I'm going with the purple face or not. But this has not been one of the favorite family costumes that's been chosen by the kids. So
you sound bitter. We'll move into Nebraska football to brighten your mood.
Yeah.
What'd you think, man? We were all in Columbus. Level of shock that it was as tight as it was.
High. Very high level of shock. Certainly Vegas saw a blowout. When I made my score prediction going into the game, I think it was like a 22 or 23 point win for Ohio State is what I predicted, and I maybe thought going into it that it was going to be even worse than that. And it was a little bit of a homer type prediction. So. You got to give credit to Nebraska, especially for kind of riding the ship with the way that game started. I mean, it seemed like you were on the express train to blowout town, and Nebraska was able to make that a game and lead late. So it as much as the Indiana debacle kind of changed the conversation around here, I think it kind of refocused a little bit what can be possible for Nebraska over the Final Four. And Matt Rhule's been very careful to say this week, and other players too. That effort against Ohio State only matters if you can replicate it against UCLA. So we'll see if they can do that.
Bruntzy, one of the questions we had in our post-game show, which we didn't really hit on yesterday, was the fact that it was another close one-score loss for Nebraska. Do you consider that in a game like this where you are playing the number 4 team in the country? And I'll admit, it did feel different than one-score losses of the past 5 years or so, where those games, it felt like you had a gun pointed at your foot and you're just waiting to shoot yourself in the foot. Nebraska didn't really do that on Saturday, but regardless, it's a one-score loss. What do you make of that? Is that something to discuss this week?
Well, I mean, I think you can – a couple things can be true. I mean, you can – really give credit to Nebraska for the way that they performed in that game against a very good Ohio State team. And at the same time, kind of bemoan a little bit the fact that you had an opportunity, multiple times in that fourth quarter to come out with a win. I mean, you guys were in that stadium. I mean, you could feel, I mean, you guys know how it is in Memorial Stadium where it's kind of tense late. I mean, you could feel that in Ohio Stadium, like that feeling in the air felt very, very familiar. And Nebraska had a chance to go and win that game, and they weren't able to do it. So I can understand the disappointment of that. But at the same time, I mean, I think you can also take what Nebraska was able to do in that game and feel like you've got a few things that you can maybe take forward in the last 4 games of the season. So I can see both sides of it, and I think two things can kind of be true at once there.
You were right. I mean, it was intense. It was worrisome. It was, I mean, even the fans afterwards, I mean, it wasn't quite a loss, but they were pretty dejected, not only filtering out of the stadium, but there's just a high alert level in Columbus right now. And the other storyline wasn't about what Nebraska did unfortunately, nationally, it was, what's wrong with Ohio State. I think a lot of it was Nebraska's defensive line just dominated. It's not, Ohio State should have a fourth-year tackle that's capable of playing good football. That's their second string, and that's they're missing their left tackle. Well, so's half the world. Nebraska just did a good job. But the storyline really was, nationally, what Ohio State didn't do, and I think Nebraska deserves a ton of credit for going in, especially on the heels of Indiana.
Yeah, no, it was fascinating to kind of listen. We were driving back to Cincinnati after the game, just listening to the discussion about, what kind of came from that game. And obviously there's a lot of hand-wringing in Columbus right now about what Ohio State is not able to do. And I forget what station we were listening to, but somebody said, did the last 2 weeks tell you more about Indiana, Ohio State, or Nebraska? And, I didn't feel like there was ever any consideration of Ohio State probably didn't play to what they've done so far this year. At the same time, you've got to give Nebraska's coaching staff credit, because what did we say, all week going into that game? That Nebraska needed to try to make that game ugly. They needed to control the ball. I mean, Nebraska had a sizable advantage in time of possession in that game. They, Ohio State, I think, ran 46 offensive plays that entire game. I mean, the types of things that you had to do to give yourself a shot in that game, Nebraska was able to do. And, I think it's okay to say that Nebraska, really, the defensive line really kind of asserted itself in that game and dominated Ohio State up front. And, you're right. I mean, lots of teams are playing with backup tackles. Nebraska's on their third string tackle right now. That happens other places, and somehow they're still able to play football games. So I think that's, maybe been lost a little bit in the national discussion. And, maybe the fact that Indiana game can maybe just be a one-off. I mean, that's kind of what that performance against Ohio State brings into the conversation, is that, maybe Nebraska just had a really, really lousy day in Bloomington. And we'll see if that's the case, and if they can put together some good games in November here.
Bruntz, as we turn our attention to November, let's look at UCLA coming up on Saturday. They're 2-5, but as you dive into this schedule, man, what a welcome to the Big Ten they got. I mean, they opened the year with Hawaii, but then it's to all teams that could be college football playoff teams. Indiana, LSU, Oregon, Penn State is their next four following that. What a welcome to the season. What a welcome to the Big Ten. They turned around a good performance against Minnesota. They lose by 4, and then they get a win against Rutgers in a tight one, 35-32. Matt Rhule kind of talked about this team hitting its stride at the right time. What's your concern level with the UCLA Bruins?
Yeah, they're an interesting team. I mean, numbers-wise, it's not good at all. They're last in the Big Ten in rushing. They've got a good running defense. They can't defend the pass, and have shown they haven't been able to do that. They're willing to turn the ball over. Third down defense has not been very good. So, it's kind of hard to line up what you see, when you just get like a chart of where the teams rank in various categories, and then what you see on the field with, some close games. I mean, they have played close games in some of those contests. So I would hope that November last year and the way that played out is a bit of a lesson to Nebraska going into this game, that you can absolutely cannot overlook the opponent. I mean, think about last November. I mean, you had Michigan State, who was on an interim head coach. You had a Maryland team that was not particularly good, and Nebraska should have been able to beat at home, and you weren't able to take care of business. So, I don't think that Nebraska can walk into this game and thinking it's just going to be a walkover. They're going to have to perform well on offense. The defense is going to have to kind of carry the game, and you're just going to have to play smart football. So it's a game I think that lines up well for Nebraska and what they want to do. But we've got a whole previous November of games like this where Nebraska's really struggled. So there's a little bit of an opportunity to get the monkey off their back here.
Bruntz, let's talk about the offense in November. What do you think can be better moving forward with that side of the football?
Yeah, I think they started to find a little bit in the second half against Ohio State on the ground. Certainly Dylan Raiola putting on tape that he can run. I think, that should stick in the back of the minds of opposing defensive coordinators going forward. And, I think Nebraska just needs to find runs that work, that are a little bit kind of different looks than maybe what they've given teams through the first 8 games. And, you're going to have to be able to do that because the weather's going to start getting lousy. It's going to get windy. I think you've got to find some things on the ground there. As far as the passing game, this feels like a week where Nebraska should be able to do some things through the air against UCLA. We'll see how much the weather cooperates with that on Saturday. But, it felt like Nebraska had some guys open on Saturday against Ohio State. You just kind of need Dylan to hit some of those throws. And I think that could potentially loosen things up a little bit. But you just got to be more efficient on offense. I mean, I think it's in very, very small spurts and starts, it's looked okay, but it just needs to be more consistent.
Michael Bruntz with us. Couple more minutes. Hail Varsity Radio. Michael Bruntz, of course, Husker 24/7 Sports at Michael Bruntz on Twitter. Bruntsy, I loved your tweet earlier this week about the hey, I'm sorry, I smoked your back light on your vehicle, referencing the Big Ten. And they're, hey, sorry about that spot. Is it a better November officiating-wise for Nebraska?
I don't know. I mean, can it get worse? I mean,
well, yes.
I mean, I guarantee it can. But yeah, I give credit to Nebraska for speaking up. I mean, some of the Big Ten acknowledged the Emmett Johnson spot, but I mean, and you're going to lose judgment calls. I get that. You can quibble with those probably until the day is done. But just the basic spotting of the football seemed to be an issue for both offenses in that game. There's a quarterback sneak early in that one too, where it looked like Howard got 5 or 6 yards and they marked it back like he gained 2. Like it was just a very strange game. Then the sideline warning on the headset spike. I mean, it was just bad. I mean, I really hope that the Big Ten is able to figure things out because you've got billion-dollar television contracts. You're going to start, every one of your schools is going to start paying out $20 million a year or more to its athletes. I mean, this is not just some little small-town high school game that you've got to get right. I mean, it's a big deal. And you just can't keep having these issues that are really important in close games, and they matter. I mean, the spot on that Jalen Lloyd end around, I mean, that really ended up affecting what Nebraska was able to do at the goal line. So it's bad. It seems like it's gotten worse this year, and we'll see if Nebraska kind of speaking up, I guess maybe gets you a call here or there. But it was just a really, really bad game for the Zebras against in Ohio.
Michael Bruntz with us. Did you or BC hammer the Skyline Chili?
We avoided that. We ended up at an establishment that had previously been a funeral parlor that had just Pete Rose memorabilia everywhere. It was kind of like we had wandered into somebody's basement, and but it got the job done. Got a good meal. They served beer there that was pretty good as well. So it was all aces in my book.
Good work. Trick or treat, Bruntsy. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmidty.
Schmidty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. Hail Varsity continues. We're going to talk some college football. National college football man Bill Bender with us from the Sporting News at Bill Bender 92 on Twitter. Bill, what a college football season it's been. Year one of the 12-team playoff, and man, it has been Well, no disappointment each weekend. How we doing?
No, it's been a wild season so far. I think one of the themes I'm seeing is there's not a truly dominant team. One of the things I pointed out Saturday night was, okay, if you look back at last season, heading into November, we had 13 power conference teams with one loss or less that you thought were still in the playoff hunt. This year we have double that, 24, almost double that, 24 power conference teams plus Notre Dame sitting there with 2 losses or less, which I would say would put them in the hunt for those 11 spots outside the group of 5. It's going to be a fun November seeing how it shakes out.
It absolutely will be. Bill Bender's Sporting News with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Interested to get your take on, we were in Columbus last weekend and quite frankly surprised that it was as close as it was. I think it was a good day for Nebraska as we look to their November. What was your takeaway with Ohio State, Nebraska? Because, of course, Ohio State's got the spotlight this weekend in Penn State.
Well, I think it's an example of 18 to 22-year-old kids that Nebraska, how bad Indiana beat them, and they probably were challenged throughout the week in practice. Matt Rhule had a good game plan, honestly, really close to winning the game. I had Dylan Raiola standing in there. He took some shots from a really good defense, so he'll grow from that. Defense played well. Unfortunately, the post-game reaction is less about how well Nebraska played, and now we're trying to come up with ways to say, well, what's wrong with Ohio State? When I can tell you, and I think you can tell me, is their offensive line's in a little bit of flux because they had that injury to Donovan Jackson. They're shuffling some guys, and they didn't get a push against a pretty good Nebraska defense.
And Bill, what was kind of surprising about that to me, Ohio State wasn't able to get a push. You compare it to the week before. Indiana was able to get a lot of push against that Husker defensive line. And the Husker defense says scheme, but I saw an Indiana offensive line that played cohesively as a unit. And where I'm going with that is you kind of look at the Big Ten as a whole. Is there a chance Indiana is actually better than Ohio State? Something we never would have thought coming into this year. We'll have a better idea here in a couple weeks when they finally square off. But that was one of my takeaways. I know it's week to week in college football now, especially in the Big Ten. But, man, the Indiana team just might be that good.
Yeah, it's setting up for an interesting 2 weeks for Ohio State, at the end of the year. Now, Indiana has to take care of business next couple weeks here. They play at Michigan State. That's not a gimme. You got to wonder if Curtis Rourke will be back. But, you guys have seen both. So I think you've had a better vantage point than me in some ways that, we all saw how Indiana, I've been kind of joking. I think you guys feel the same way. If you threw Michigan uniforms on them, they'd probably rank 3 or 4.
Yep.
It is the logo, man. It is about the logo, isn't it?
For sure. And, I've been impressed with Kurt Cignetti, and he brought 13 guys from James Madison with him, and they were 10-0 last year at James Madison. They were kind of in can they make them a playoff team? Mm-hmm. What they've learned from that. So very excited to see what Indiana does, but they got to play the 2 Michigan schools before they get to Ohio State.
Let's go to we'll kind of circle back to some Nebraska thoughts, Bill, but this weekend, I know you do your column against the spread, and you do your weekly pick'em. What does Saturday say to you with Penn State, Ohio State? Do you have not necessarily an early lean, but I know you got a situation at quarterback with Penn State. You're going to have over a week of being called out if you're the Ohio State offensive line. The grain right now is, Penn State's going to get this done. Finally, they'll get back over the hump, yet Ohio State goes in still favored by 3.5.
Yeah, I still lean toward Ohio State here, and most of it, some of it, Drew Aller, Penn State had some injuries hit at the wrong time. Drew Aller did not play well against Ohio State last year, but I still think he's the quarterback that gives them a better chance to win. Now, interesting thing to that, though, you notice Bo Pribula stepped in and played well last week. And Bo Pribula had been in a quarterback competition with Drew Aller. If you want a comp, kind of reminds me of Trace McSorley from a couple years ago. mobile, averages 6 yards a carry, efficient. I just think Aller would be the guy you would want to try to throw the ball down the field against that Ohio State defense. But, and it's also kind of a misdemeanor, not a felony, but a misdemeanor that they're not playing that game at night.
Big time. I mean, that needs to be a night whiteout, doesn't it?
Yeah, and as somebody, I've been to a couple of those games. I get that we got to do what the networks do, but can't you do the big noon kickoff show and then just play it at night? I mean, that's something that's a break for Ohio State, and they've done this game at noon last year, or 2 years ago, and they did Michigan at noon last year. So for Penn State, if I was their athletic department, I would have pushed more for, hey, this is our showcase game. Let us have it at night. All the same, huge stage. Both teams have questions. That Drew Aller injury, though, that's significant for Penn State.
Bill Bender's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Bill Bender's Sporting News at Bill Bender 92 on Twitter. Who's your fourth best team in the Big Ten right now? Is it Indiana? Is it Ohio State? Where do you kind of slot Illinois? What's your power rankings look like for a 4-team or a fourth playoff team for the playoff this year from the Big Ten?
Well, I think it's Indiana right now. I mean, the big three, Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, but Indiana's right there. So, as you size up those four against the four from the SEC, you openly wonder, okay, can they get four in? And I think it'll be close. If you're asking me now, today, I think the Big Ten championship game will still be Oregon and Ohio State. Mm-hmm. I think the Ducks. Here's another bold prediction for the weekend, made to look really foolish, and then I'm going to say it on the air. I think Michigan's going to hang around with Oregon.
I think you're right.
I think they're going to, I think it's a kitchen sink pride game for that program that's been really bad, but they beat Michigan State. They found a little bit of a passing game, not a lot, and up front I think they hang around. But if it's Oregon up 28-0 at halftime, and you text me, Chris, I'm gonna press ignore on the text that I was wrong.
I won't be calling you out because I think Michigan. It just kind of feels like that's how it's going to be. I think Indiana, as good as they've been, I think they're going to be in for a dogfight at Michigan State, just because you have ebbs and flows of the season, and somebody at least gets scared twice a year. Or they go down when they're not expected to lose a ball game. That's the world, Bill, of college football we live in.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you, but you got me thinking now. I've done this long enough that we know once that calendar turns to November, things change a little bit. And even more so next Tuesday or next week when those first playoff rankings drop, then it really gets interesting because you can say, hey, we don't pay attention to the rankings, and a coach can say that, or a player can say that. They're lying because all of them have phones, and they know exactly what the rankings are. And if you don't know the rankings, then how can you say nobody respects you? I think the play tightens up, it amps up, and you find out who those true contenders and true national championship caliber type teams are.
It's Bill Bender with us here. And Bill, as we circle back to Nebraska, they got UCLA this weekend. And I just want to get your thoughts on how these four West Coast teams have transitioned into the conference here in 2024. Your response, obviously Oregon's been fantastic. USC's been a little Jekyll and Hyde as the year's gone on. UCLA is getting better. I still am not quite sure what to make of Washington. I think they can get anyone, but I think anyone can get them. What's your take on just how these four teams have made the transition into the Big Ten?
Anytime you have a transition, it's going to be rough in some spots. But I think USC is having the roughest one, obviously, because they're the most visible program. And some of these close losses, they did beat Rutgers. It looked like, I don't know if you saw the screenshots. It didn't look like too many people were at that game. UCLA, same deal. But I think you hit it on Washington. They're going to grow with Jed Fish, and they did beat Michigan. That was nice. This cross-country travel thing has been a huge story for the conference, and I think it takes a year to adjust to that in some ways. But, with Oregon, this is not to keep harping on this Oregon-Michigan game, but they did travel to Purdue, but that was Purdue. This is a real 2-time zone travel type game. Michigan beat USC when they came to them, and I think it's a really interesting test and a good spot for the Big Ten. But, yeah, I think it's been fun. I don't know about you guys. I've approached it with an open mind. I think the conference has been fun to watch this year.
It's been incredible to watch, and a couple of teams that have jumped up and surprised. A lot of us left Minnesota for dead early. They're in the thick of a fight for a better record than what we would have thought when we look at personnel and recruiting rankings and all that. Flex really had a pretty good year. Mm-hmm. And then Illinois. I mean, Illinois really kind of wowed us when they came to Lincoln with just how gritty they were and how balanced they were, the ability to run and throw it. And then Indiana, of course, has been the story of the league with Sig and them coming out of nowhere. A little bit more with Bill Bender. We're up against it. Bill, hang tight. We'll spend a few more minutes with Bill Bender here. Sporting news on Hail Varsity. A podcast, always get to us. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play is where you can download the shows. Hail Varsity Radio is what you search for. Give us a rating. Appreciate that. Like and subscribe. Also, YouTube channel, Hail Varsity YouTube. If you were to watch the show, welcome to do that. And it's posted for you. Elijah does an amazing job with that. Want to remind you about buckling up. Driving is your full-time job. Phones, food, and friends need your attention. Well, when you're not driving, stop the distractions, just drive. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. We'll get some more thoughts from Bill Bender. Big matchup in Happy Valley Saturday. What's Nebraska's November look like? November rain or some November pain? Or how about a smile? Maybe bowl bound. About 6:15 Central Time Saturday. More Bill Bender on the way with Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Bill Bender with us here. Sporting news at Bill Bender 92. Plenty of Big Ten thoughts here from Bill. Ohio State needs to really lock in. They are too talented and the payroll's too good for them to not be in the playoff. But, you know, Elijah and I got back Sunday from Columbus, did shows out there, and that whole place, Bill, is just unhappy, it feels like, with Ryan Day. Guy's killing it. The guy's killing it from a career record standpoint. I know he's lost 3 in a row to Michigan, but the guy's been to the playoff about every year, it feels like. And they are pulling their hair out. And you see the stress on him when he's trying to murder a headset at the end of a game. I mean, he's just... that guy doesn't seem happy, and the fan base sure doesn't seem happy.
It's palpable. And if you picked up on it, it's been like that for about 2 years now. And I know a lot of it's based around Michigan, and I think some of this goes away if and when when they beat Michigan this year. If they don't beat Michigan this year, I don't know what this place is going to feel like. But I think some of that pressure of watching Michigan win a national title, bringing in the additions that they brought in, having, a defense that hasn't answered the bell in big games, and then, some of the frustration with the offensive line, which has been honestly what they've talked about the last couple of years, is this offensive line, when they go play a Michigan, they get pushed around. And Nebraska won up front. And that's why that's the complaint I'm hearing. And, then they'll get on Will Howard. But I'm going to say this. I'll be a Will Howard defender. I know he slid early against Oregon. I don't care about that. He played very well on Saturday. He didn't miss a pass in the first half, and he led the go-ahead drive. He made one mistake. Quarterbacks make mistakes in the course of a game. If anybody thinks that's on Will Howard, I just don't agree.
How do you feel about the pressure on Penn State? Is James Franklin relieved any of that? We talk about Ohio State a lot, but, man, Penn State fans have been disappointed that they haven't been able to get the big one.
Yeah, I mean, that happens when you're 1-9 against Ohio State. or the struggles he had against Michigan. They didn't play against Michigan. So there is a lot of pressure on them this week too. So one of those coaches on Saturday at about 4 o'clock is going to be feeling a lot of heat. And Chris, you guys were dead on about Ohio State. I'm glad you picked up on the mood there. It's the same thing with Penn State, because there's always that question of, okay, when's he going to win the big game? I mean, think about how different the narrative on Penn State would be had they lost to USC. And they were down 2 touchdowns at half. So that was a huge perception-altering victory for him, and they can put some things to rest by beating Ohio State on Saturday. The magnitude of this game, perception-wise, is huge. Both teams will probably go to the playoff anyway, but you got to have this one.
They do. Bill, we'll get you out on this. Bill Bender, Sporting News, with us. Penn State's got road wins at Wisconsin and USC. I think they're having a great year. Officiating. I mean, just god-awful Saturday, both ways, Nebraska, Ohio State. What's your solution to fixing this? Because it's been going downhill for a while.
Well, I never blame the refs. I'm gonna be honest. I've officiated youth basketball, so I understand what they're going through. Do we need to improve it? Probably, but I always tell people, man, that those athletes are moving fast, and they're going to miss calls, and we review most of them. I'm actually more disappointed in the bottle throwing stuff.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and you know what? If that happens, they should. My solution. Your fans start throwing bottles on the field, okay, 15-yard penalty on you immediately.
15 per beer bottle.
Yeah, I would penalize them a personal foul for game stoppage.
Sure.
And I'm not talking about the individual streaker that, I didn't know we were going to go here today, but an individual idiot runs on the field. I'm not talking about that. But when you do what the Ohio State fans did or what the Texas fans did the week before, that should be a 15-yard penalty on your team. Then we'll see if they start throwing them.
Streaking, yes. Bottles, no.
Yeah, streaking, maybe we'll give you 5 yards. No, I'm joking. That would eliminate. I've been disappointed with that the last 2 weeks, because if you're trying to influence an official by throwing beer bottles, and for the record, that Ohio State targeting call, I hate the call, but it was targeting.
Sure, that's what I say.
I'll put it that way. It was targeting by letter. I don't love it, but that was the call.
Bill, we'll let you get out, bud. Enjoy your college football weekend. Thanks for giving us a few minutes.
No problem. Thank you, guys. Have a great week.
Well, the streaking versus the bottle throwing. Good stuff from Bill Bender. If you just caught part of that, catch all of the podcast on the Rewind, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play when you search Hail Varsity Radio. Hail Varsity YouTube channel as well. Come find us Friday patio show, Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. I think it is a Pizza Friday. I'm going to do their
Are you deeming it a Pizza Friday?
I am. I'm going to get what now?
Or is it is there some sort of thing going on, or is it just a pizza?
No, I'm getting a pizza there.
Okay.
I'm going to sit out by their fire pit. They've got 50. I'm exaggerating, but they've got a ton of high top fire pit setups. Incredible setup. I'm going to get pizza. Mm-hmm. I'm not a side sauce guy with my pizza. I'm not Searles where I need 70 gallons of ranch.
That's me.
That's you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can. I might, though, shift over to the side sauce discussion and go the Bang Bang sauce or the Boom Boom
with
sauce.
Pizza?
Well, as a crust dipper.
Nah, that's too far for me. Why would you go that far whenever you have the perfect instrument to put onto your pizza crust already here in the Midwest in ranch dressing?
No. The perfect pizza instrument is that Bang Bang sauce. Give me a pizza with the Bang Bang sauce as the sauce.
I could get down with that.
That'd be incredible.
Kind of like an Asian-inspired type thing.
Something.
Yeah.
And it would work. So I just got to figure out what pizza I want Friday.
The problem is living in Nebraska, you already have the two perfect sauces for pizza crust. The first one being ranch dressing. The second one being, no free shout-outs, Dorothy Lynch. You have those two great options right there.
No. I need to shoot Junior a text and have him bring me a Lazari's. tonight. Before you leave work, kid?
You're just getting after it.
I am.
See, I made a whole bunch of chili last night.
How was it?
Fantastic. Great chili. I got the leftovers.
Do you go high-level spice with your chili?
Absolutely. Enough chili powder to make you, like, uncomfortable whenever you're dumping it in, and then you try it, and it's fantastic. Like, that's how much you got to have in there.
We'll hear from Dylan Raiola, I promise, here next segment. We're just out of time.
I will say, though, chili last night for dinner plus chili for lunch today has made the air in this room a biohazard.
Dude. You do look like you're tearing up a bit. You are tear gassing yourself.
You're lucky there's glass in between us today. Oh boy.
The glass is starting to crack. My brother made some Atkins or whatever chili before I flew out Thursday. And it was incredible. I mean, it was more meat. I don't know that there was a lot of beanage in it, peppers and stuff. It was great. I about didn't leave. It was that good. Okay, we'll dive in some Dylan Raiola thoughts on him using his legs. We'll wind out at Tuesday with Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, it's Hail Varsity. Catch the show, Hail Varsity YouTube. So that scrambling element, a big topic of discussion today. You heard from Satterfield on it. Let's hear from Dylan Raiola, a little bit of a conglomeration of all the different answers on him running with the football. Here's Dylan from earlier today.
Yeah, I've had a few. I don't know if you want to count them, Pop Warner, but yeah, I've had a few of those. I always knew I had that in me. Opportunity presented itself and made a play. Yeah, there was a play I remember from Indiana. It was a 3rd and 4. Moved up in pocket, scrambled left, and turned back, throw it to Ramir and threw it in the ground. But saw that I could have ran in for the first down. But I think sometimes I underestimate myself of running and doing that stuff. But it's fun. I honestly didn't expect to get out in the open and be that wide open. But yeah, it was good. It was good for people to see.
Absolutely. Just no one's getting separation. Tuck and run and slide and be safe. Helps out the run game. Dylan, when it comes to the topic of being bowl eligible for Nebraska, big moment Saturday for this program.
Before practice, actually heard someone say there haven't been a bowl game in 8 years or something like that. So I think giving the fans a guaranteed one more game, possibly more being in the playoffs, would mean a lot to this fan base. And they've been through a lot, and they've been really loyal to everybody. So, yeah, it'd mean a lot to everybody to get to a bowl game. And I think just the focus of trying to win this week and this week only, and, yeah, get to 6 wins.
6 is important, and he and some of these other freshmen, Elijah, have come in with, let's win now, that mentality. Let's hear from Raiola here, cut 4.
The guys that came in, we just wanted to win. It didn't matter to make a bowl game with 6 wins or win the rest of the season and get to 9-3. So I think it's just a good group effort to go and out and take each game as itself and go win. But, yeah, I don't know. I honestly haven't thought of it that way. I try to not just, we try not to just do the minimum and just get to 6 wins and be okay and kind of coast through it, but finding ways to get better week in and week out, and I think they've done a good job of that.
Yeah, I just listening to Ty Robinson earlier, there's some urgency. Man, you're up to the goal line, literally, and just get across, get that 6th win, exhale for a second that you're the team, the group to get out of this bowlless funk, and then see what the rest of November brings.
I mean, how many times have you been already just under Rhule, one play away from reaching that 6th win? Look back your Wisconsin last year, Iowa last year. You're a yard away.
Dude, you've had
Ohio
a lot
State.
of lessons.
You've had a lot of opportunities to get that 6th, and you got another great opportunity ahead of you on Saturday.
Sure.
But man, you look back at some of those missed chances and you go, they've been a yard away, a play away. I mean, you've made the play defensively against Iowa before you go turn the football over just outside field goal range. Like, you were right there so many times.
Well, and, we can dive into tomorrow with more UCLA on that trust topic that Mitch touched on earlier, but, side of the ball, it's clearly still defense even after Indiana. Maybe you feel better about special teams moving forward. Maybe you feel better about the offense. But right now there's still questions to be answered. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for spending time. Back tomorrow at 4 on Hail Varsity and the Hail Varsity YouTube channel.